There's lots more here on NTV today, including a press briefing on the increasing incidences of deaths from the use of force by the police. And this is being done by the Kenya Human Rights Commission. And we want to cross over live to hear what that has. This has been in the news, obviously, given the video that was being shared over the weekend about Eastleigh. So we want to hear what that is all about. Crossing over there right now.
With the National Police Service Act, the National Police Service Commission. The National Police Service Commission should institute disciplinary action against other police who are the city or killings, the two young men, including against the Nairobi County Commander, Joseph Kome. Immediately vet and remove police officers involved in extrajudicial killings, including those from units within the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, also linked to extrajudicial killings.
But we cannot have a society whereby we have the laws in place and then the police tell us, anyway, it's become too much for us to follow those laws, and therefore let us do what we want to do because we are the police officers. Our insistence is on the rule of law, it's on the Constitution, and as long as it's not provided for in that Constitution, we are not going to sit back and say the police who are playing to the public gallery are doing the right thing. But having said that, we also care about the police. Our commission, the National Police Service Commission, was in the forefront of the Philip Ransley Task Force. We're in the forefront of the Naikuni Implementation Task Force. And as we speak, we also want the welfare of the police to be taken care of. And we are happy that at least there is now an insurance in place. A police officer who loses his or her life in the line of duty is given 2 million. They have a medical cover, outpatient 100,000, inpatient 1.5, and those are the things we want to see because we want to take care of the police even as they take care of us. But we cannot be stuck on the conversation of why are they killing, when they get killed, why do we not say anything, and when they kill the public, why are we so quick to say what we say? We are so quick to say what we say because we are guided by the law and the rules of this land, and that is what they require us to do. I'll let my colleagues respond to the other questions.
I'll talk a little bit to what you've asked, Brenda, about how we see the public supporting instances of killings, and who then are we speaking for if the public is saying it is okay. And Nicholas, your request for an update on what is happening with the trial, and I think your specific question was, have investigations happened? So I'll start with the unreported cases. And I'll speak as part of the police reform working group. We come with different areas of expertise. There's a team involved in documentation and advocacy. There's a team that's involved in casework and direct interventions. So our work has always been casework, and that's what the angle I shall come at this from. We have received many cases. The response by the Police Reform Working Group and civil society is not only when it is someone of measure. One of the things we reacted to the case of Willie, Joseph, and Josephat. We had been handling similar cases for the last 12 years. We've had many persons who have reported cases to us who have been part of an investigation, a prosecution, or their case has gone through the whole criminal justice system. This was an incident that became particularly personal to us because for the first time, previously we've escorted clients through this process, but for the first time we were approaching a police station and asking for an OB to see if our colleague was there. We were calling out at the back of the cell and asking, shouting his name, the same way many of our clients have said, nimeenda kwa polisi, nikaitana hapo nje, sikusikia, hakuna mtu alijibu. So that became particularly personal for us. This is why it has become a public thing that we have pursued with vigor. But there are many other cases that each one of the organizations has represented and has continued to participate in. One of the things that the situation in Eastleigh should allow us to discuss is whether the public trusts the criminal justice system. Because when an incident of this nature happens, they trust that if I report a case, that it will be effectively and credibly investigated, that there will be a professional prosecution, and at the end of the criminal justice chain, justice. If the public does not trust that criminal justice system. Incidences such as Isili happen where there's a public that is saying it is fine because we have already encountered a lot of crime. And the danger in running a society on the basis of fear from crime is that it trickles down. When someone is alleged to be a criminal and there's no due process in how they're investigated, prosecuted, and they face the force of the law, then an innocent person like Willie, Joseph, and Josephat, they get killed if we make it okay for this summary justice to happen. One person cannot be the investigator, the accuser, the judge, and even the executioner, because we have not even had an executioner for many years. It can't happen in one transaction. It can't happen by one person. That is why the whole chain of the criminal justice system needs to work. In Willie, Joseph, and Josephat's case, we have seen encouraging progress. There was an investigation. In August, the first 4 were charged for the murder, for the triple murder. In September, a 5th accused was also charged. The trial is ongoing. We are past the 20th witness. It has been ongoing and continues to go on for every week until the end of April, from Monday to Thursday. It's a public trial. During the time we had protected witnesses, it was closed, but it is now public. And we have many times, and I throw this back to you, reached out to the media to be a partner in allowing this to be a public discussion. That it is possible for investigations to happen, it's possible for prosecution to happen. Because that also encourages the public to go and report and to say, I will be a witness in this case. For as long as there are no witnesses in the case, then the system is unable to properly prosecute and secure justice in the individual cases. So each one counts for something. It's also easy to say that there are so many, and when we talk about numbers, we can get consumed by the numbers, but each one case that delivers accountability and justice, it does shape the system, because it answers one question: how do you investigate effectively? How do you prosecute when we don't have specific laws targeted under what is called the color of law, that it's a police officer on duty? Ours is, what is the criminal justice system saying? This is a murder, we shall prosecute as murder. But when we don't have these individual cases that show us it is possible, then it becomes difficult for the public to trust that the system works. So it may appear frustrating, it may appear futile, but one case at a time. And with, I think, the media being able to come, talk about these cases, you're able to encourage the public to see something different. There is many institutions, and Commissioner has alluded to it. There's many institutions in the criminal justice system that support the ability to address incidences such as what happened in Isili. There was a huge crowd. The likelihood that anyone will step up to record a statement and to testify is, first, their lack of trust in the system, and second, the genuine fear for their own lives. We have a witness protection agency that works, that is resourced, that is equipped, that needs to receive a lot more of these cases. So also the public needs to be encouraged to test the system and continue to report these cases, and one case at a time, it will ultimately have a result and an impact on the system. I think I've responded to all the questions directed to me.
Okay, so just maybe broadly speaking to all the different concerns, I think you're right. And part of the motivation that we had been pushing on the issue of an official judicial commission of inquiry was to actually follow up on this systematic aspect of the extrajudicial killings we've witnessed, as the statement says, over the past 15 months, and if you even deeply look at it even further back than that. The reality is that you cannot have the statistics that we have had with regards to extrajudicial killings and not say that there must be some unofficial policy that sanctions this within the service and therefore emboldens people to the very lowest level of the service to engage in these killings. An official judicial commission of inquiry would serve to be able to open up that conversation, to be able to raise the issues of looking at this thing holistically rather than in bits and pieces. There is a challenge, I'll agree, in terms of the possibility and the viability of forming that commission of inquiry. What we are now saying is, as civil society, the buck has to stop somewhere. And there's a political responsibility for the president to be able to look at this as a national issue of concern, and that one that requires proper, sustained response that that inquiry can then lead to based on recommendations that it can come up with. And so our pressure actually goes to that very top. It not only just goes to the top of the police structure through the Inspector General of Police, as we have actually stated previously, it also goes and extends to the political responsibility that the president has on this issue. And that's where we're actually laying this at the doorstep of the presidency, that you need to take note and acknowledge that this is not an issue of rogue officers. This is not a one-off incident. This is actually an inherent problem within our security apparatus that needs to be dealt with accordingly, and to reflect on the reforms that we have also invested very heavily in, if you look at it from the Ransley Police Task Force to now. So that's where we are putting that aspect of accountability on the systemic nature. Where does the problem lie with regards to investigations? It's actually a very potent mix, because we have all the institutions that George has mentioned, and also OMIDA, from the Witness Protection Agency to IPOA, to the Kenya National Commission itself, which processes some of these questions, and the Director of Public Prosecutions. There is some level of synergy that can be improved between these institutions. How do these case files move from one institution to another? How do they deal with the questions, for example, that the Director of Public Prosecution raises when he says he doesn't have a conclusive file to then sustain a prosecution? There needs to be a stronger effort to synergize the operations between all these agencies, and then also some level of strong political support again for the work these agencies will do. Because we cannot have a situation where, for example, the executive either quietly endorses or actually just fails to respond to this emerging issue and fails to back the agencies that are actually trying to work on it. We can't have a situation, for example, where previous statements from the Cabinet Secretary for Interior would seem to suggest support for what we are seeing happening with regards to extrajudicial killings, while you have independent agencies that are trying to investigate the very same incidences. We need that political support to also come to bear and meet the other independent agencies halfway, so that the work they are doing actually receives the full support that it requires to result in those credible investigations and prosecutions.
Rajab, your question whether there is an official or a seemingly official sanction of the killings, if have been captured in this statement where he said, the same gangsters shot dead an officer yesterday. Tell all gangsters out there that when they kill an officer, I'm ruthless, and they'll get it from me. Japheth Koome is a high-ranking police officer. We presume him to be closer to the decision makers in the whole architecture of security. In fact, he's a county commander of one of the biggest counties in terms of population in this country, Nairobi County. So if he has the audacity to come out in public and make these statements, then we have reason to believe that he's not just making these statements without any backing. They may say publicly that there's no shoot to kill policy, but these statements do not bear them out. Again, I think we are, as a country, we've been reduced to just resorting to the gun and the bullet as the only method of resolving any issues of insecurity or criminality. And we even saw this when the deputy president went to Baringo and said, if you see any of those people, shoot them. Now, if the deputy president is saying that, and Japheth Koome is saying this, I think we start seeing a very worrying trend of public declarations that are seemingly authorizing extrajudicial executions. Together with the other actors, we've been pushing for the establishment of this Judicial Commission of Inquiry, especially following the very brutal death of Willie Kimani and the other colleagues. Working very closely with ourselves, the Law Society of Kenya, the civil society, and I understand there were even meetings that were held to really try and impress upon the president on the necessity and the need to establish this. We are still hopeful and we still continue making that call. But having said that, nothing stops us as a commission to also independently follow and verify these assertions. In fact, when we got statements from the coast of cases of extrajudicial executions, we went there, we had public inquiries, we are preparing that report. When we got issues of major conflict in the North Rift, we went there and we are preparing that report. The third phase, and we had a focus, was to actually sit in the major urban centers, especially the informal settlement where these actions are taking place, and families are so on these bodies, then they are actually in the form of. So we are really asking them that with the relevant protections in place, they should work with all partners, come out, record statements, conduct, agree that the post-mortems will be conducted so that we're actually able to build watertight cases that can stand scrutiny and therefore help us secure convictions in our courts of law.